What up, y'all? It's your boy Tay Day All Day, back again with another episode. Your boy, I really got to say something real quick, because to me, this is dumb as heck. Fuck it. I'm gonna say hell. It's dumb as hell. Because I just really want to talk about the whole thing about stereotypes or racial groups or ethnicities, and how we handle our children and what standards we set. Now, this is just the stereotype. I'm not saying this is every family, and I'm not saying that this is everyone, but this is the stereotype. Now, plain and simple, when we're going to go ahead and jump in. Native Americans. What is the stereotype? They're heavy on tradition. And they're heavy on powwows, and which I guess that's just counted tradition. I don't know much about Native Americans, but one thing that I can say is that they are spiritual people. That is the ultimate thing. They believe in what they believe in, and that's it. That's what it is. Jewish people, same way. They're about getting their money, and they have a higher standard about discipline. And that's pretty much really where I want to hit on. It's discipline. When it comes down to discipline, okay, Jewish people, they're very organized. They're very driven to get it. Turkish people, same way. Very driven. Now, when it comes down to Jewish people, it really, they're going to respect you if you making a lot of money, because they like to build generational wealth. Asian people, I'm not going to break it down to every race and within the Asian continent, but I'm just going to say Asian people. They all do the same thing. They all have the same purpose behind what they do. They are very focused people. They have fun, but they are very focused people, and they always have some kind of generational wealth for the most part. Now my main three people that I want to talk about is, because I'm not going to talk about every race and ethnicity. I'm going to go ahead and get down to the butter and grime here, okay? The three people I want to talk about are the stereotypes are white people or Caucasian, African Americans or black, and Hispanics, or in this case, Mexicans. I want to talk about them because these are the people that we most, they're the most people with the most dramatic things going on, the most things happening, because these are the three biggest groups that we worry that reside in the USA. Mexicans or Hispanics have really taken over the majority of the USA. Caucasians are second. And if we had to put down where the blacks would be, the blacks would actually be below, not actually in third place, but the drama and things that they're doing carry that weight up to make them seem like they're part of that bigger group. But we're not. We're actually in the smaller group. But what I'm really trying to get across is that when it comes down to discipline, there's factors that play. And the factors that play are simply, what do you do when you're young? How do you grow up? So I'm going to go ahead and say, when I was growing up, my parents had a standard. Now, it could be the smallest thing, and I know a lot of black folks can agree with this. A lot of us had that standard where your mama or your daddy, they don't make them say something twice. Okay? That's a fight right there. Do you really want this trouble? You don't want that. You don't want that trouble. So you learned, you adapted. No matter what age you was, you started to adapt. And mama said, go take a shower. If she had to repeat herself twice or 3 times, you know it's on. And then if, whatever the case may be. Now, what I thought whenever with my experience around Hispanic and Mexicans is that they were strict as well. Now, it definitely depends on the tradition. Depends on where your family is from. So, me creeping up on 30 years old, you're gonna go ahead and figure out what type of Hispanic or Mexican lady you will be that I'll be talking to, or anything like that that's around my age. Now with all these trends and things going on, if you're Hispanic and your parents grew up or raised you in the American way, then you are, or from what I've experienced, a lot of these Hispanic girls talk crazy to their parents. They do not have the traditional values. They do not have the standard behind it. The mother has to tell them 50 times to do things. They talk back. They raise their voice. They carry some kind of chip on their shoulder for no reason, because they have been spoiled their life. So they assume that mom and dad are going to take care of things. Now, on the flip side, you have your traditional Hispanics. They were brought up. Those kids could have been born still in the States, or could have entered the States at a very young age, usually between 1 and 5. And they grow up, and they're still carrying the parents still bring to that home the traditional Hispanic way that they learned as they grew up when they were in Mexico or wherever their origin may be. They usually have way more discipline and more understanding of a system and be able to adapt. That is what I've learned. And then it's a problem because that's what it is. Now, I'm not gonna go into my principle of the point that I'm making just yet. Now, I'm going to mention about the Caucasian or the whites. We already know that whites believe that everything should be compromised when it comes down to family. They still build generational wealth. Their goal is always to build generational wealth. But their goal is also, it seems to be, is that their biggest fear is to be looked down upon. Their fear is to be in last. They're okay with being second, third, fourth, or even fifth. But they will not be last place or second to last. So they will do whatever they can to be last. Not to be last. Now, I say this because right now, in the present time, if you look up statistically, there's more Hispanics in America than there is any other race. Hands down. No question about it. But now we think about it. We go and we say, okay, well, what about on a political standpoint? White people still rule that. They still rule the system. They still run the government. So white people are still going to be at the top of the charts because they control way more than we control. Okay? And the reason why blacks are being targeted is because blacks figured out their system, and we rose up and we had a black president. We haven't had a Jewish president. We haven't had, a Jewish or a Native American or even a Hispanic president. We haven't had those yet. We just had our first black president. And so that is how, and so the whole point of that is that I'm saying that white people, they have a way of doing shit on the back end behind closed doors to hide their purpose in doing what they're doing. But their discipline is to put on a smile in front of you and allow you to believe that everything's okay. And then with their children and their upbringing, that is a whole nother world. We know for sure that when it comes down to white families and stuff like that, that these people, they want to treat their kids as equals at don't matter what age. The problem is they try to treat them as equals when they're 5, 7, 10, 12, 14, 16 years old. When they misunderstand the whole purpose that your job is to equip them to help them understand the system. Your job is to let them know that it's not mama and daddy versus kids or child. It's mama and daddy and child or kids versus the world. And they allow their kids to run over them because they believe that, I can just take that from them. No, sometimes you need to beat their ass. You need to check them and put them on since you want to give them the same respect that they should give you, which they don't, and you want to put them on that level, okay, put them on the same level in a action wise, okay? Yes, you can strip them of all that stuff, but if they want to buck up to you, you need to put their ass down. Whoop that ass. Whether if they're 16 years old, 17 years old, and they want to buck up to you, put that shit. I'm gonna put my hands on my kid. You don't have to beat them down and beat them to a pulp, but I'll put my hands on him, put him in a goddamn lock, put his ass to sleep. Now he don't remember what the fuck just happened. He wake up in his bed, like, and come downstairs and looking at me like, I don't know what happened. Last thing I remember, you was on top of me. Or you had me in a chokehold. Yeah, your ass needed to go to sleep before I killed your ass. That's what you needed. Now, let me, in this last few minutes, I want to go ahead and talk about the principle of the point. The principle of my point is that when you have people, when you're dating somebody that comes from a different background, and y'all get along good and everything like that. But those little things when y'all start getting, you live together, you talk about having kids, or if you do have a kid, those different backgrounds come out. Those things show up. What the mom allows versus what the dad allows. If you don't come up in the same upbringing, the same type of things, y'all not going to be on the same page because one's not going to care. And one's going to be like, well, how the fuck you let your child talk to you like this? He's the one that's ignorant. He's the one that doesn't know better. You do. But you allow him to keep talking to you like this. And then you mad whenever he don't do something. Then you say you can't trust him. He's not responsible. That's not his fault. That's your fault because you never taught him how to do that. You never held him to any standards when he was younger. So how are you going to just decide, because he hit a magic number, that all that responsibility and ethics and all those things that you should have taught him years ago will just drop into his knowledge, into his brain, and say, oh, okay, now I know. That's not how it works. Those take time for them to learn and do it. And then eventually they will know what you mean when you say it. You never want your child, if you don't want to have to ask your child or remind your child to do things or wake up for school, set an alarm. You want this $1,500 phone, but it can't wake you up. Is that what you're telling me? To get ready for school? No, hell no. Okay? Remember, my advice is to you is if you gonna get with somebody, you need to figure out their upbringing and find out if their upbringing matches yours. If it does, great. If it doesn't, y'all need to hash that shit out now. Because if you trying to do a long-term relationship and that woman don't care too much about a lot of things you care about, you think are important, and your kids' upbringing, y'all need to hash that shit out, or it's not going to work out. And it's not going to work out at the worst possible time, and that's when you already have that child. Thank you guys for listening in. I hope you guys share this. Peace.